This is Rugby, our hometown, and the topic of our research over the last 3 months. The North Dakota history students at Rugby High School have taken on a project to highlight the history of our downtown community, its historical buildings, and the people who continue to work to keep our downtown alive and vibrant. As our project progressed, our direction and focus evolved to show more than just the history of the buildings. Through our investigation into the past, it was easy to see the way our Main Street affected the community and how that has changed over time. This research naturally brought us to what is taking place in downtown Rugby today. By analyzing those two pieces of information, we started to ask the question, what direction will we advance toward in the future? Our history is important to who we are as a community, and through this process, we have uncovered the interdependence between a vibrant downtown and a vibrant community.
The history of downtown Rugby starts with the beginning of Rugby itself. Established in 1886 as Rugby Junction, Rugby initially served as a stop on the Great Northern Railroad that branched Botno and the Balta-Orne area. It wasn't until September 5, 1905 that Rugby officially became a city, after which Junction was removed from its name. Since the beginning, Rugby has seen numerous buildings, companies, tragedies, entrepreneurs, and celebrations. The vast majority of these have happened within the area that we know as Main Street.
Like most early settlements, the Main Street in Rugby was the social and economic hub for the community. In the late 1890s and early 1900s, Rugby had a number of different businesses and stores located along Main Street, just south of the railroad tracks. Taking a stroll on the boardwalk downtown, patrons would have had access to grocery, confectionery stores, clothing shops, diners, hotel lodging, mercantile stores, 2 different drugstores, a furniture store, lumber yard, multiple banking institutions, and a general store, along with the post office, train depot, and the courthouse. All of these would have been within a 3-block radius of the train depot, as the railroad served as the premier access point for travel and the shipment of goods to Rugby that supplied not only the community, but the surrounding farms and ranches as well.
By the turn of the century, Rugby was beginning to add businesses and buildings to the downtown area that would become some of the most memorable and prominent buildings to stand in the community. In 1903, O.T. Tusford built a 2-story brick building located on the corner of Main and 2nd Street. This building originally served as a general store on the main floor, and the 2nd floor was known as the Rugby Opera House. Some of Rugby's very first school graduation ceremonies were held there. Opera and other performance companies traveling by rail would stop in Rugby and perform in this location as well. In 1903, a barber shop was established in the basement, giving all 3 levels of the building an effective use for the community. Fortunately, this building is still standing in Rugby and is currently going through a major renovation to bring it back to life.
As equally as important as the Tufsrud building was the Craymond Hotel. Built in 1900 by J.C. Craymond, the hotel was one of the most recognizable buildings located on Main Street and just a stone's throw away from the depot. The 3-story building had rooms for both long-term and short-term stays, and a restaurant was located in the back. The Craymond Hotel was also one of the first buildings to have indoor plumbing. Through our interviews with local elderly residents, we discovered that the hotel would allow residents to come and shower during the cold winter months for a small fee before indoor plumbing made its way into farmhouses in close proximity to the town.
In 1965, an arsonist set fire to the hotel, and a significant portion of the hotel was damaged before the fire department was able to contain the flames. The Craymond Hotel was closed after the fire and never reopened. It was eventually torn down, and the space became a parking lot between the railroad tracks and Chiropractic Associates.
In 1903, Jacobson's department store was rebuilt with a brick and mortar building. Although it is no longer standing, this building would be vital for businesses and services in the community for just over 50 years until it too burned down in 1954. The 3-story building would house the Jacobson department store, doctor and dentist offices, Bell telephone service, law and insurance offices, an abstract and real estate company, 6 apartments, as well as a grocery store and shoe store. Every level of the building would be occupied, and the loss of the building was coined the $1 Million Fire. We were able to talk with local residents that remember the fire and recall being able to see the smoke from as far away as 10 miles. Eventually, the Jacobsons would rebuild a 1-story building in the same location, but the visual change to the corner of Main and 2nd Street would be significant.
Directly on the north side of the Jacobson department store was the Grunwald Motor Company. Built in 1927 by Finger Grunwald, Grunwald Motors at one point was known as one of the best car dealerships between Minneapolis and Seattle. With the affordability and popularity of vehicles increasing, the Grunwald Motor Company would become a very significant spot in the landscape of downtown Rugby. New models of cars would be revealed as a social event that people would attend. The women's powder room was always well kept and accessible for shoppers to use as they patronized local business downtown. Local kids could be found trying to sneak into the basement to look at the new vehicles before the reveal, and a full-service shop was located in the back of the building. Luckily, the extra width of the common wall between this building and the Jacobson's department store kept the building from catching fire when the Jacobson store burned down. It currently has been renovated and still stands as a staple to the downtown business scene.
Throughout the early 1900s and into the 1930s, Rugby began to expand and see an increase in the need for financial institutions. Merchants Bank is the oldest banking institution in Pierce County and was established in 1897 by John A. Davis, Henry Erickson, and William D. McClintock. By 1904, the bank had built a new brick structure that featured the bank on the main level, a barber shop in the basement, and a physician's office upstairs. This showed how they utilized all levels available. First National Bank was built in 1901 and is one of the original two-story brick buildings that still stands in downtown today.
As Rugby continued to evolve and grow, so too did the downtown area as electricity, sewer, water, and eventually paved roads made their way into our town. The original courthouse was picked up and moved east of its original location in order to make room for Main Street to expand south. This building would eventually be remodeled into apartments and currently stands across the street from the Memorial Hall in disrepair. Having multiple billiard halls and the Lyric Theater, the city could provide places for social events to take place, adding to the quality of life for Rugby residents. At one point, the Lyric showed 2 shows a night in order to keep up with the demand.
During the 1940s, 50s, and 60s, Rugby would see 3 grocery stores, a local butcher shop, 3 hardware stores, a men's clothing store, a shoe store, and a number of different service-based companies, providing the things people of the community needed for a higher quality of life. JCPenney department store would come to town in 1963. The owner of the company visited his store in Rugby once, before it would eventually close in 1990.
As our project progressed, the importance of downtown has been an eye-opening and interesting piece of history that our class has tackled. In the process of our work, we were able to meet over 15 different business owners on Main Street and tour the buildings that we have learned so much about. Through these conversations and our on-site investigative work, a number of interesting facts came to light in understanding how our community and our downtown scene has moved forward. One of the biggest forces of change for our community was the 4-lane highway that now runs on the south edge of town. This major transportation route has given retail stores more traffic by being situated on highway frontage, and thus has pulled some businesses from downtown to these areas. Even though a number of businesses have chosen to locate out by the highway, the downtown businesses have continued to provide a strong base for our community, and they contribute a substantial portion of sale tax revenue to Rugby. Currently, there are 42 businesses in the downtown vicinity with 5 vacant storefronts. This is where our work on downtown revitalization came into play.
Researching the Main Street Initiative seemed to be a natural fit for our project, as we talked with local business owners about the reasons they choose to be located downtown. It also brought up ideas that they have to keep our Main Street alive and vibrant. With this work, our class was able to see how some communities are putting a focus back into their downtown by utilizing space, structures, and history to bring back a vibrant community core. Working with the Kilbourne Group out of Fargo, we were able to look at how this company has approached the challenge of revitalizing downtown Fargo with the goal of creating a smart, vibrant downtown that adds to the health and quality of life for the residents of Fargo. Mixed-use density for the area was a common theme that we continued to come across in our research, and it became clear to see that this is something our Main Street showed in its early years. By coming to one area, residents are able to take advantage of the multiple establishments that have been integrated into the downtown scene within a walkable distance. The businesses fed off the traffic generated, and this was something that was brought to our attention multiple times from local business owners in downtown Rugby. Although the scale is much different between Rugby and Fargo, the idea is the same. Having entrepreneurs willing to establish a business in downtown is something our community should be proud to support. And luckily for Rugby, there are people who are finding opportunities to establish new businesses in some of Rugby's oldest buildings today.
Through all of this, there's something that we have found to be far greater than the buildings and location that make a community what it is, and that is the people. Working with business owners, city officials, and local residents, we have seen a strong effort to continue moving our town into the future, and the biggest question that we have yet to answer is simple: where will our future take us? Only through collaboration, community building, and an entrepreneurial spirit will we find out where we go from here. Rugby has a unique and storied history to tell, and we hope that by bringing some of it to light allows us all to take pride in the community that we call home.